go. Welcome here into Teal, the show. We're live here at the Community First Igloo as we get you ready for what's next for the Jaguars. Jamal St. Cyr alongside Alessandra Pombrion and Aaron Beasley. We got a big game coming this way.
Every game's a big game from week 10 until. So, we just got to strap it up again. And hopefully they forgot about it, because you have to forget about it, and on to the next.
On to the next, on to the big one, Sunday Night Football. What's that going to be like in the bank, you think?
Hopefully like last Monday's nights. It was an awesome crowd. The energy was there. We just didn't, get what we wanted. But what happens is this game, nobody is going to forgive you. Nobody's going to feel bad for you. The next team is going to try to come take you too. Baltimore coming off an emotional win against the Rams, they're not going to let down, because they see the first seed, which is a free game, or a bye week, excuse me.
Yeah, not exactly the ending to Monday Night Football, which was just last week, that we wanted, or the ending to the Sunday game against the Browns that the Jaguars wanted. So Jaguars were just 8-3, not that long ago. Now the team sits at 8-5. Not exactly ideal. I know a lot of people are worried after 2 losses this late in the season, back to back, but players on the team saying they're not ready to press the panic button.
Hell no. It's adversity. That's what life is about. That's what this league is about. And obviously, we got the guys in here to figure it out and to respond and turn this thing around. It's cool. We're sitting at 8-5, and we know we could be better. So we're definitely gonna go out and try to respond and get back in the win column for sure.
Jaguars definitely have to respond. 8-5 is great, but not when you were just 8-3 2 weeks ago. Or 2 games ago, really. It's not even 2 weeks. So not exactly an ideal situation to be sitting in, but the team still has time to respond.
I look at it like this. 2 other teams lost in our division. Not the number 2 and number 3 seed. The last team in our division won, Tennessee. Yeah. But we're still ahead, and all we can do is just play one game at a time. That's the one thing about this game. It doesn't matter what you did last week, on to the next. That's my philosophy this week.
There's always a silver lining to every week, isn't there?
Always.
It's a good thing that the other 2 teams in the division lost, but for the Jaguars, they're only 1 game ahead for that lead. This game that they're coming up on against the Baltimore Ravens, who are the top team in the AFC, it is going to be a daunting task to beat them. But if they do, it's going to look much better, of course, from a Jags fan's perspective of, trying to beat the top team, because I think they're still in the hunt for the number 1 overall pick, or number all overall seed that you talked about, but they're going to have to get through the Ravens to be able to get that. If they don't, I don't see them picking up the top seed spot.
If they're going to get there, they're going to need a little bit of help, but they also have to take care of business out on the field. In order to do that, they got to get rid of some of the mistakes that we've seen over the past 2 weeks, and mistakes they've really been making all season long. Look, overall, the team feels like that with 4 games left in the season, it's plenty of time to fix those mistakes, which is always good news.
It's frustrating for all of us. I think you ask any guy on the offensive side of the ball, defense, whoever, any guy on a team, it's frustrating to have mistakes, obviously, and stuff that you can control. You're not going to make every play. You're not going to, there's going to be things where the defense makes plays and does some things well that, hey, you got to give them, you just got to give that one to them. But, stuff that we can control. And there was stuff, speaking candidly, in the game where I, made some mistakes that I typically don't make, and I thought some of my progressions were off, and some of the decisions I made, I want back. So it's all of us that have a hand in it. So I think we're all frustrated when you come in Monday and you watch the tape and you're just trying to make the corrections and move on. You just want to get another chance to play and get that out of your system. So we all feel that way, and yeah, we're frustrated, but it's a good frustration. It's something that we should be, after you're not playing well, and after all that, still having a chance to win the game. I think it just shows that if we can clean up some of these mistakes and just play more efficiently, we're going to be a hard team to stop. But we've been shooting ourselves in the foot too much.
I think he nailed it. The last 2 games, Jaguars have struggled at times. We've seen a lot of mistakes out there on the field, but the team was still this close from winning both of those games, which kind of says a lot about the team they are.
In a game of inches, every play counts.
Right.
And, I was just thinking when he was saying that, I used to go home after a game and you only think about the bad plays, because you shoot for perfection. We used to get graded And every time you come back, you want to grade 100. But we used to try to just, Donovan, myself, Fernando, and Carnell, just stack a play. Get 100 grade every play. And I feel like sometimes we're pressing out there and trying to do too much instead of make the play when it's there. Catch the ball. If you don't get the yardage, okay. But catch the ball first. Or make the tackle. Or catch the interception. Just things like that, the simple things.
When you think about it, they've only lost those past 2 games to combine 7 points. That's really not that much, but it's uncharacteristic mistakes that the Jaguars made. And we heard the players talk about that for the past few days. I wonder from your guys, maybe they were pressing a little bit too much because they didn't have Christian Kirk.
It changes some of the things that they do offensively. Christian is such a dynamic part of what they've done. But it shouldn't change what they do, certainly on the defensive side of the ball where some of the mistakes were popping up. Right. There are a number of mistakes along the team that they have to get fixed. But like some of the guys said, they feel pretty comfortable about where they're at. Let's take a look at those AFC South standings right now. The Jaguars are sitting in first place with a little bit of breathing room, but not a whole lot. They got 8 wins, while the Colts and Texans both have 7 wins. Now, the good news is the Jaguars swept the Colts, and they won 1 game over the Texans, so they do have a little bit of breathing room, just not very much.
Barely any.
If you look at the AFC standings, the top is 9-4. When you go all the way down, it's 1 or 2 games. And when you think about what's going on, everybody can win every game. There's so much talent in this league. So you never know who you're going to have to face, but you got to face and play your best.
10-3 Ravens. That's a rough matchup for Sunday.
Look, the Ravens are a team that the Jaguars have seen before. They saw last year. We'll talk a little bit more about what happened in the matchup last year, which is one I know a lot of Jaguars fans remember. We'll talk about that, relive it a little bit, and start to move ahead to what the team needs to do to get a win at the bank on Sunday. That's coming up when Teal the Show returns right after this quick break. Over the years, I think a lot of people got used to the Jaguars playing 1 o'clock kickoffs because there have been a lot of those 1 o'clock kicks. This week, Jags back in prime time. They were just there last week, but they're back in prime time this week. Different slot, Sunday night football. Jaguars haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, 15 years. Has it been October 2008 was the last time the Jaguars played on Sunday Night Football? Very long time ago, but you played in some Sunday Night Football games.
A couple of games, but now I'm on the other side. And I got to, coordinate my tailgating because I think I started too early last game and had a rough time the next morning.
Hey, look, the Jaguars have a solid record in Sunday Night Football, even if they haven't been there in a while. They've a 4-4 record at home in Sunday Night Football. Can't complain about that. Obviously, you have to make sure you manage the tailgating because they're going to need you. You're loud in the stands to make sure you're there. Don't get to pregaming too hard. I think maybe it was a managing of the time thing for the players, but also a managing of the time for the fans because you still got to get there and make it to the fourth quarter.
The anxiety of that game, it trickles down to the fans because we haven't had it in so long.
Right.
And you don't know how to, keep that energy, because usually 12 o'clock you're starting to get up for the game, but now you have to wait till 7. You've been at work all day. You had dinner, and now it's like, I got a tailgate.
Yeah, it is curious to see how the Jaguars are going to change their usual game day schedule for that 8:20 kickoff because, like you said, they're used to those 1 p.m. kickoffs. So it is curious to see how that schedule is going to evolve for some of the players. And I assume maybe they'll get more time in the study room looking at Ravens highlights or stuff like that, which there's quite a few Baltimore players to definitely be studying up on this week.
Hey, or maybe they just take a nap. Many of them will probably just take a nap. Maybe even catch some of the 1 o'clock kicks, watch a little football before the football game. Who knows? One thing we do know, Jaguars are going to be wearing all teal out there on the field. They made the announcement today. So Sunday Night Football at the bank, dart game, all teal out with the black helmets. I like the all teal look.
I love it. Monochromatic.
Is that because we lost in all black?
Maybe. Flip the script, that could work a little bit better. Look, whatever works. Whatever will get them back in the win column, ultimately, that's what they need to do. So Jaguars are playing the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about it a little bit. The Baltimore Ravens right now, the top team in the AFC. And the Ravens are coming here maybe with a little bit of revenge on their minds, because last year the Jaguars and the Ravens had a game that I know a lot of Jaguars fans remember. The Jags had to score 18 points in the fourth quarter. That picture is Zay Jones. That's him catching the 2-point conversion in the last 14 seconds to seal the win up for the game. At the time, that was the Jags' second biggest comeback in franchise history. It was a wild game. One of those last-second wins that the Jaguars had last year. They were coming back left and right late in the season. So the Ravens probably haven't forgotten that kind of game. You don't forget those very quickly.
Oh, you don't. Because I go back to the AFC Central when this was a rivalry. I played against Baltimore twice a year, and, those games were always blue-collar. I mean, Ray Lewis, Ogden, that defense they had, Jamal Lewis. And it's that. When I look at Baltimore right now, I see that kind of team. They're a physical team on both sides of the ball. Both lines get at it, and, their defense is going to get after us. We just have to execute and make our plays. It's almost the same script every game. Execute, make your plays when you got to make them, and you have a chance to win.
Yeah, but we haven't talked about the star of the show. It's going to be Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. What a dual-threat quarterback this guy is. And I asked Doug Peterson today, how are you going to be able to stop him? And he basically said he's an explosive player, he's an electric player, and it's going to be hard to obviously limit him. But when you have the tackle, you need to be able to tackle him. Because the one thing Lamar Jackson does really well is scramble and pick up extra yards and, extend those drives.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is fantastic, and we're actually going to get Aaron Breezy to break down how the defense can try and contain him a little bit. That's a little bit of later on in the show. That's maybe a tease. How about that, Aaron? We like that?
D-back showing pass rush.
Look, he's a defensive guy. We got to show him. You got to talk defense when we got him here, right?
I did lead the sacks. The NFL in sacks for 5 weeks one year.
Hey,
as a defensive back. I'm bringing up some old stuff.
You are. Look, that is a stat right there. I did not know. We're going to have to double-check that one for you. We're going to have to check that one. All right, look, the Jaguars have to do their part. Big game. All the players know that they have to clean up the mistakes. They have to do their part. But it's a night game at home at the bank. So that means Jaguars fans, you can do your part too. Just like you talked about earlier, kind of managing your time. Mm-hmm. Maybe don't start pre-gaming as early for the game. The Jaguars need fans to be there loud and proud in the stands and make sure that the Ravens know they're in Jacksonville.
We're excited for this crowd to go crazy. We're excited to fly around. We haven't been, obviously, like you say, I don't think we've been as good as home. And we're ready to change that around, you know what I mean? And we need them to do it. It's going to take literally everybody in the stands. And, by the end of the day, we got to go out there and be ready to play some football.
Yeah, the Jaguars defense definitely needs fans to show up loud, make sure that it's difficult on that Ravens team. Coming up, we're going to have Aaron Beasley break down what you got to do to slow down Lamar Jackson. That's straight ahead when Teal the Show continues right after this break. Okay, it's the question that everybody's been trying to figure out this year that not many teams have been able to do. How do you slow down Lamar Jackson?
You don't.
That's basically been the answer, but Aaron Beasley thinks he's got the solution.
Just containing.
Just contain.
He's going to make his plays, but we can't give up the big plays. You can't give up those scrambles, and it's an 80-yard bomb because somebody gave up on their coverage.
Right.
But it all happens from the fronts, keeping him in his lane.
It's not about stopping him, it's about containing him, and it all starts at the front. Aaron Beasley gave us a Beez Breakdowns today that shows just how the Jaguars front may need to play Lamar on Sunday.
This week's keys to the game, pass rush integrity. For this guy right here, we have our special number 8 in purple, because what we want to do with a guy like this is keep him inside the pocket. Sometimes guys get washed and you see a big crease created up here. So what happens is, especially with a 4-man rush, they have an advantage on the offensive line. So, usually your DN's coming upfield. But what happens sometimes, you get both guys coming upfield, the center, and what happens, your nose actually rushes out like this, and now we have this big lane in here for the quarterback to step up into. Yes, we don't want to let him get outside of us, but we still don't want to let him step up, because what happens, we have breakdowns and coverages. Once the breakdown and coverage, we call it plaster. Plaster is when DBs actually find a man in their zone and they plaster onto him like a man, because what happens now, this guy has a two-way go, and we have to leave it up to the front seven and make the play, because we don't want to give up the big plays like they got last week.
All right, Aaron, you were saying when you were a player, there was a defense that did this to you when you were with the Atlanta Falcons, and it worked pretty well.
Oh, well, I played with Michael Vick, and I've never seen this before, where a defensive line didn't even pass rush. All they did was go upfield a couple yards and just made sure that he couldn't leave the pocket. So they didn't actually pass rush. They went a couple yards. They stayed in their little lane, and when he tried to move, the whole line moved with him. And it's frustrating because at some point somebody's going to get to him, and he couldn't find his open receivers, and it was a pretty frustrating game. We only won 6-3.
Now, the Jaguars probably don't need to go to that extreme.
No.
maybe not that extreme, but they do have to. You start talking about gap integrity, and players always have to know their responsibilities. And sometimes guys freelance. It happens on the field. You know, they know what they can do. But against a guy like Lamar Jackson, you don't want to freelance too much.
No, just because of the fact that he can kill you both ways now. I mean, he's not just a runner. I mean, now that you watch him, he's sitting in the pocket, and he's being very patient. And even at times when I see press coverage, I see him throw like timing routes, which a lot of guys don't do nowadays.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is a former NFL MVP, and he is a dynamic quarterback. Jaguars are going to have their hands full when they try and figure out how to slow him down on Sunday. Coming up, well, you got a little bit of Jaguars ticket news that I know everybody at home wants to know. That's straight ahead when Teal the Show comes back. And it's almost the end of the regular season, about 4 weeks left for the Jaguars. That means playoff tickets go on sale.
Can you believe there's only 4 weeks left? Where did the time go?
Hey, when you're winning, it all flies by so fast.
Except they're losing 2 games.
Hey, 8-5.
Why'd you bring that up? That's gone. That's in the past.
That's right. Quick. You got to have a short fuse. You got a short-term memory. Playoff tickets officially on sale. Jaguars are in first place in the AFC South. That's NFL rule. So if the season ended right now, it doesn't. But if it did, Cleveland would come to town. Jaguars would get a rematch against the Browns. Maybe, I don't know if that's what they want.
Redemption.
There you go. Redemption chance.
We could have won that game.
They could have.
There you go.
I mean, we could have won every game if you think about it. A few mistakes here and there, but every game we've been in, and that's a good sign. You know, we still have not played a complete game, if you ask me.
That's the tough thing. We keep saying they haven't played that complete game, and it's there. But at some point, you start to wonder, can they? Because we're this late in the season, and you're still talking about things like miscommunications. You start wondering, can this team put it all together?
Well, especially at a time now where you have younger guys coming in, you're scrambling with your O-line with different combinations, and the communication ends up not being what it was when you started camp. So now you're bringing back newer guys, and maybe that was the complaint about the noise. We got younger guys that don't know the coverages.
Right. A lot of things to work on, not a whole lot of time to do it. Jaguars have a big game against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. It's a game that you're going to want to make sure that you see. We're here every week. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday nights here for Teal the Show, or come on, watch the show live with us here at the Community First Igloo. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll be talking about a Jaguars win next week as we start to move things forward. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Good night, everybody.